the first standing ovation here. That really, I'm speechless. That is so special.
Well, thank you. You know, I just, if I'm just sitting on the couch or whatever, you know, that's what I'll do. Just play that sort of stuff. And it's almost hymn-like, you know?
Very much, yeah.
That probably comes from going to church 3 times a week when I was a kid. You know? But that's the blues and gospel and thank God for all that music, because it's really all the same. It is American music, and it's pulled from the African work songs that were brought over, and a lot of the, if you go back and listen to some African music, true African music before it ever came over here, you'll hear a lot of that, and mixed in with that you'll hear the Scotch-Irish music. And so I believe Sam Phillips always said, if I got a right hand that's white or a right hand that's black and a left hand that's white, then I got what I want. That's rock and roll. And rock and roll, the blues, gospel, it's all the same. Country music's the same. It's in its true sense, in its true pure form, it is very, very similar. I mean, if Jimmie Rodgers is the father of country music, then certainly, I mean, he lived in Meridian, Mississippi. He learned it from the black men that were working right along next to him, riding the rails with him, too. And as we talking about this journey, and I know we're kind of flipping in and out of channels right now, but I think what we do, and this is probably very important to touch on, as players. Yes, I did. Dwayne was the one that opened the door for me, and then of course there was, after I opened the door, I read something where he talked about Jesse Ed Davis, and that's where he had first heard slide guitar, when he heard Jesse Ed playing Statesboro Blues, right, the old Blind Willie McDowell song, with Taj Mahal. And then so you start running back through there, and then you see this guy, now, who's this Ry Cooder guy? And then you go, and Ry, and I certainly did, I gotta say Ry had as much to do with my development as anybody did, because Ry has been the one constant who kept American music alive and in the forefront for people who cared enough to listen. You could, if you just kept your eye on Ry, and he's going to take you back. And then I heard him talk, and he'd talk about, who's this Robert Johnson guy? And then Robert Johnson was a total. I remember what Keith Richards said about when he first heard Robert Johnson. He goes, he played the record for him. He said, "What do you think about that guy?" And he goes, "He's great, but who's that other guy playing with him?" And it was, and that story, about how he, I don't know about all that selling your soul to the devil and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It makes for good folklore, I suppose. But and maybe it's, I think what had happened, everybody that talked about Robert Johnson, and we should probably give a whole time for that. Right. I feel like I'm skipping around too much right now. Maybe we got a way of cutting in, out, and sure, getting out of something else. But yep, but the Robert stuff. I used to play it a lot better than I can now, because see what would have been. this sort of gives you a little idea. The thing that happens, I realize as I'm sitting here playing, I realize I'm not able to do the things I used to do with those guitar players because I studied so long, and then I became me.
Yeah, you had to do your own thing.
So I'm going, well, that doesn't sound like Robert Johnson at all. That sounds like you doing a real bad impersonation of Robert Johnson. But we should give credit where credit's due. And he and Son House probably, when I saw Son House sing John the Revelator, it scared me to death.
And where was that?
It was on, he had done a trip over to Europe, and they, thank God for the Europeans for keeping that music alive in the 60s. Yeah. And he had done, you know, he preached about half the time, and he never, this particular time, he was being filmed, I believe it was in Sweden or Germany or someplace, and he never picked up the guitar, John the Revelator. He just clapped his hands and he stood up and he walked around, and he was really testifying. And we later recorded John the Revelator with my band in the studio with the Fairfield Four. And that was my proudest moment of my years at Arista Records. All the years that I made records there, John the Revelator was my proudest achievement musically.